Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our guest of honor, Minister of State, Ministry of Law and Ministry of Transport, Mr. Murali Pillai. Welcome, good to have you, sir. A warm round of applause. Very good morning to our guest of honor, Mr. Murali Pillai. Our distinguished guests, friends from before and new friends as well, ladies and gentlemen. So good to have you all taking time to gather here this morning. A warm welcome to Singapore Safety at Sea Conference 2024. I was just commenting that it feels like an annual reunion. Just coming together, right? Just the right time, because you've got stories to tell. You've got experiences to share. And it's great to check in once a year, right? To see what's been the best practice, what to do next together as a community. So my name is Carissa Seed. Pleased to be your MC for this event today. Now, before we begin, we all agree that safety is a key pillar for us. So give me your attention as we do a short safety briefing. Now, in the unlikely event of a fire or emergency, I believe we will all remain calm and orderly. Now, the exits are located at the back of the room, the same way that you entered. We will have ground personnel on the ground to take you out in a calm, orderly manner. We will exit through to the hotel lobby, turning left, and then assemble at the point that you see here on the slide. This is the Tangling Walkway, and we will await for more instructions there. So in the meantime, we'll remain calm in any emergency and, of course, take care of each other, more importantly. So thank you. This is the end of the safety briefing. I appreciate your attention. Now, that said, a bit of background, right? The conference today is the first in a series of events as part of Singapore's Safety at Sea Week, which is an annual initiative by the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore, MPA, to promote safety at sea. Now, that said, this year we are excited, expecting over 2,000 attendees to come together across the various events brought to you by MPA, the National Maritime Safety at Sea Council, our safety work groups, and our co-located events. So it's really like a whole kampong, coming together to bring to mind why safety is super important in our day-to-day. So we really look forward to connecting with each and every one of you, and we hopefully make new connections and learn together. That said, ladies and gentlemen, to open today's conference, I'm pleased to welcome on stage Chief Executive of Maritime and Port Authority, MPA, Mr. Teo Eng Dee. See, please, the stage is yours.
Mr. Murali Pillai, Minister of State in the Ministry of Transport and Ministry of Law, Mr. Ishak Ismail, Chairman, National Maritime Safety at Sea Council, Dr. Kenneth Lau, Chairman of the Marine Industries Committee, Workplace Safety and Health Council, Sister Mary Liu, General Secretary of SMOU, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning and welcome to the kickoff event for this week's Singapore Safety at Sea. We also welcome, for the first time, colleagues from the Port Management Program. This is a program that MPA sponsors and supports many of our developing countries and developed countries' friends to come to Singapore during this week. So besides officers from Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia, we also have, for the first time, officers from Colombia, Belize, Cuba, Ethiopia, and Fiji joining us today. The Safety at Sea Week is MPA's flagship event that brings together the local and international maritime community to promote awareness and facilitate discussions of maritime safety. Launched 10 years ago, Safety at Sea Week comprises many safety-related events with support from the National Maritime Safety at Sea Council, as well as various industry safety work groups. And over the years, the Safety at Sea Conference, the Harbourcraft Safety Forum, the Pleasurecraft Safety Forum, as well as the ferry rescue exercises have come to be events that the industry look out for. And this Thursday, we'll be doing our annual FAIREX as well. For this 11th edition, we've decided on a new format where we'll alternate between the Singapore edition and the international edition. And in the Singapore edition, it will deepen our engagement with our domestic stakeholders, and we also welcome companies to hold your various safety exercises and your own discussions this week. The safety at sea remains critical, as several events of the past year has highlighted to us. In March this year, when the ship veered off course and struck off the bridge in Baltimore, I think you have seen the loss of lives, damage to infrastructure, and the extensive disruptions such an incident can occur. Closer to home, the elision leading to the oil spill and the more recent elision between a dredger and bunker of Petron Bunker shows that it is important to be able to respond to safety at sea quickly, including firefighting, containing oil and chemical spills, as well as search and rescue operations well beyond our shores. Safety is also top of mind in pursuing our sustainability goals, and I'm glad that we made very significant progress on this front. This year, MPA has worked with industry partners for milestone trials for ship-to-ship, and also the first trials relating for methanol and ammonia. To share our experience and extend the learning to the wider community, we invited the key stakeholders for these trials to share the conference today. To ensure smooth transitions to these alternate fuels safely and in good time, we will need to work as a team and do things differently for a sustainable future. I hope all of us can use platforms like this to ask questions, clarify doubts and myths, so that we can collectively learn and conduct these operations more effectively and safely. MPA has also worked with the Singapore Civil Defence Force this year to co-organize the inaugural Responder Plus program, Maritime Workshops, to benefit the greater maritime community and further elevate our collective safety consciousness and preparedness. And this is a good chance to equip companies with critical life-saving skills such as CPR and the use of AED as well as fire extinguishers. In addition, we've invited organizations to initiate safety-related activities. This year, we are heartened that the Singapore Shipping Association, the Nautical Institute, Singapore Branch, PSA Marine, and the Association of Regional Ferry Operators have come forward to organize such events, and we look forward for such partners in future iterations. Apart from the Singapore Safety at Sea Week, MPA also worked closely with the private and public sector to advance our safety agenda. We recognize the outstanding contributions of our partners through the MPA Safety at Sea Awards. This year, we are proud to present 8 awards for outstanding contributions to search and rescue efforts in 2023. In reviewing the nominations this year, the National Safety at Sea Council noticed the commendable efforts of the master and crew of these ships. From a makeshift raft to a sailboat, and even persons in water, collectively, we have rescued 153 survivors, diverting as far as 500 nautical miles over many hours to render assistance to those in need. For instance, the crew of RTM Dujan had spotted 6 people on the makeshift raft while en route from Australia to China in July last year. They've been adrift for about 12 days after their fishing vessel sank. The master took the initiative to request for clearance from the MPA MRCC to bring them, given the unsafe conditions with the unpowered raft hitting the ship and the poor visibility. One of the crew even risked his life to get on the raft to fasten a harness and rescue a 6th survivor who was too weak to climb on board. For another 2 incidents just 8 days apart, it was coincidentally the same crew and master who came across the survivors at sea. In May, the master and crew of Cape Franklin rescued 95 people, spending over a day for each rescue operation. These awards are thus our way of commending their dedication and selflessness in providing timely rescue to the stranded and distressed and saving lives. And kudos to everyone, and well done to all the award winners. In closing, I hope the discussions this week will be useful for your roles in stewarding safety, and I hope that all of you will enjoy and learn from one another in this whole week of events. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CE, for setting the tone for this morning. And indeed, I'm noticing how many unsung heroes there are, and I'm glad that we're going to bring them up on stage to really acknowledge each of them. It is a collective effort multi-pronged, and no room for complacency when it comes to safety. So thank you, CE, for that. Now, next up to take our stage, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our guest of honor, Minister of State, Ministry of Law and Ministry of Transport, Mr. Murali Pillai. Thank you for being here. The stage is yours.
Thanks, Carissa. Mr. Teo Eng Dee, Chief Executive, Maritime Port Authority of Singapore, Mr. Ishak Ismail, Chairman, National Maritime Safety at Sea Council, Dr. Kenneth Low, Chairman, Marine Industries Committee, Workplace Safety and Health Council, Sister Mary Liu, General Secretary, Singapore Maritime Officers Union, our friends from overseas, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to each and every one of you, and welcome to the opening of the Singapore Safety at Sea Week 2024. Now, I just wanted to preface some remarks before I start my speech by saying that I'm probably the most inexperienced political appointment holder, having been just sworn in on the 1st of July, so just a few weeks into the job. So I've not earned my sea legs by any stretch of imagination. But just coming here and meeting up with some of you before the conference started, I realized how close the fraternity is, and the point that Carissa had made just now about how we are really much of a kampong here. And every one of us are united to deal with the important topic of safety. Today, I'll be touching on 3 topics. First, as mentioned by Eng Dee, as we transition to energy, how do we do this safely? And the second point is in relation to partnering with industry to develop initiatives. And last but not least, how we mobilize our community to enhance safety. The theme for this year's conference is All Hands on Deck, Safety First. It's an apt theme, especially in light of the incidents that have occurred this year, as mentioned by Eng Dee, which serve as a somber reminder of the impact incidents at sea can have on vessels and crew, as well as the wider public and the marine environment. It also reminds us of the importance of preparedness, coordination, and responsiveness, and the duty we owe to the maritime personnel who ensure the seamless functioning of the Maritime Singapore and the global supply chain. Firstly, our preparedness in planning for and dealing with various scenarios enables us to respond to incidents effectively. Secondly, the annual Ferry Rescue Exercise, or FEREX, is one platform where we exercise our capabilities and tighten coordination with our partners in a controlled setting. This helps to validate our models, stress test our plans, and ultimately elevate our operational readiness. Thirdly, community partners make a difference to our collective responsiveness to incidents. For example, in the aftermath of the oil spill by the Elysian, between the dredger and the bunker tanker in June this year, more than 1,500 members of public came forward to indicate their interest to help with the cleaning operations. This is commendable. I would like to thank our volunteers for their tireless contributions. As we look to decarbonize the maritime industry, it is imperative that we have all hands on deck to address new areas of risk when we transit to new green fuels such as ammonia, methanol, and hydrogen. There are unique challenges that we must consider for each of these fuels, and safety must remain our top priority. I'm sure this theme would be taken up in the conference as well. The government, industry, and community all have a role to play. Allow me to elaborate on each of their roles. The government will continue to lead the industry's transition to future fuels and enhance its safety by developing standards, ensuring our collective readiness, and deploying digital technology to monitor, preempt, and respond to incidents in our waters. MPA has been actively working with like-minded partners to pilot trials for the bunkering of alternative marine fuels in Singapore so that the industry can begin developing standards to govern their safe use. These trials are important to support Singapore's assessment of these alternative marine fuels and are critical to the development of standards and safety procedures, as well as crew training and curriculum. In addition to these pilots, government agencies will continue our close collaboration with partners to develop new procedures to respond to emerging challenges. This year, FEREX will simulate the collision of two domestic ferries, one a traditional diesel-powered vessel and the other an electric harbor craft. The inclusion of an electric vessel allows us to review our readiness to deal with safety incidents involving newer vessel types, as the risks and responses required to respond to them are indeed very different. Besides ensuring readiness for the energy transition, the government is also actively developing and deploying new technology to enhance our capabilities in monitoring, preempting, and responding to incidents in our waters. The next generation vessel traffic management system and digital twins are examples of new systems that MPA has been developing to enhance the navigational safety of Singapore streets and port waters. These systems leverage technologies such as artificial intelligence and augmented reality to enable the identification of potential traffic and incident hotspots and validation of the corresponding incident management plans. The next generation vessel traffic management system will be ready by 2027. And the first phase of the digital twin of Singapore port waters will be ready by the end of next year. In addition to dealing with physical incidents, we must also prepare the maritime ecosystem for incidents that may occur in the digital space. To assist companies in securing their digital systems and uplift the cyber security resilience of the maritime ecosystem, MPA has developed the Maritime Cyber Assurance and Operations Center, or MARCEOC. I'm heartened that 14 partners have stepped up to trial our operating concept, new systems, and range of services since the launch of Phase 1 in April this year. MARCEOC will provide real-time cybersecurity monitoring of partners' cybersecurity systems, disseminate information on cyber threats for members to take early actions, and offer advisories on system recovery and response measures. By aggregating the demand from companies in Singapore for these cybersecurity services, MARCEOC will be a cost-effective option that mitigates the constraint of a limited talent pool of cyber professionals. We are looking forward to onboarding more companies in the coming months. Moving on to the role of industry and industry partnership. Industry partnership is critical in enhancing safety at sea. Digital bunkering is one example. Digital bunkering solutions which are developed by industry and whitelisted by MPA will enhance the safety and reliability of bunkering operations in Singapore by digitalizing workflows and reducing reliance on paper documentation. This reduces the movement of personnel between vessels to obtain and validate such documentation, thereby improving safety. Furthermore, the transparency and accuracy of information afforded by digital bunkering also provide greater assurance to ships taking bunker from Singapore. The industry-led Singapore Standards Council is also developing a new specification for digital bunkering supply chain documentation and revising the existing code of practice of bunker mass flow metering to support electronic bunkering documentation. A majority of bunkers, in the near future, MPA will be requiring the industry to adopt digital bunkering and submit electronic bunker delivery notes by default. I see some murmuring. A majority of bunker suppliers have come on board since the initiative was last launched in November. And I strongly encourage suppliers who have not done so to implement digital bunkering. We've also collaborated with industry to equip the global maritime workforce with the necessary skills and competencies to handle and operate vessels using alternative fuels safely. During Singapore Maritime Week this year, Minister Chi announced that MPA will be establishing the Maritime Energy Training Facility with 22 partners comprising global marine engine manufacturers, international organizations, classification societies, trade associations, unions, and institutes of higher learning. I'm pleased to share that preparations for the Maritime Energy Training Facility are going well and would be operational by 2026. We expect to train about 10,000 seafarers and other maritime personnel at METF from its launch till the 2030s. Lastly, we will also mobilize the community to further enhance safety at sea. Over the last few months, MPA has worked together with key members of the pleasure craft community and marina managers to develop the Safety Seas volunteer program. Volunteers would receive training related to search efforts for men on overboard incidents and be equipped with basic first aid, including CPR and AED skills, before they are deployed to augment search and rescue operations coordinated by MPA in Singapore waters. Today, 17 volunteers will be receiving their letters of appointment under the pilot run of the Safer Seas volunteer programs. Our volunteers come from a range of diverse backgrounds, with the youngest at under 25 years of age and a part of a father-daughter duo whom I met earlier today. We also have a husband and wife team who are proficient jet ski riders and other passionate members from the pleasure craft community who have stepped forward to support search efforts. Some of them would be also participating in the FEREX this Thursday. I thank our volunteers for their enthusiasm and dedication towards improving safety in our waters, and I look forward to their contributions. Feedback from the wider community is also important as we develop guidelines to improve safety. The Workplace Safety and Health Council, together with industry stakeholders, are jointly producing the Workplace Safety and Health Guidelines for personal flotation devices for life jackets. These guidelines will feature good practices on the use and maintenance of life jackets for different work environments, in line with international standards. The Workplace Safety and Health Council has just completed a 2-week consultation exercise with the industry in July and will be launching a 4-week public consultation from today. I encourage all of you to provide your feedback to help us strengthen the guidelines. To conclude, I'm heartened by the strong support for safety as evidenced by your turnout today. With our all hands on deck spirit and everyone, government, industry, and the community, doing our best to improve our safety systems, procedures, and emergency responses, we can chart a course towards a safer, more sustainable future for all. I wish you a meaningful and insightful conference ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MOS. We invite you to stay on stage. Our usher will show you to the position for the next segment, which is the launch ceremony. And really, we want to do this as a significant start to this event today. And we are right now preparing the stage. So as MOS, myself, patiently await this exciting launch ceremony. Now, I just want to highlight that what you'll see in just a while is really significant as we invite representatives from the government, the union and industry-led partners to come together, right? The tripartite collaboration to demonstrate the key commitment to upholding safety as a key pillar and responsibility to our people and all of those within the maritime industry. Now, I'd like to invite our distinguished representatives to join us on stage at this moment. I'd like to call upon CE once again to join us, Mr. Teo Eng Dee. Please welcome him, CE of MPA. And next, Mr. Ishak Ismail, please join us. He is Chairman of National Maritime Safety at Sea Council, NMSSC. Dr. Kenneth Low, welcome. He is the Chairman of Marine Industries Committee at the Workplace Safety and Health Council, WSH Council for short. And Sister Mary Liu, join us. Good to see you. General Secretary, Singapore Maritime Officers Union. Okay, we won't touch the screen as yet. Let's not get excited. To our distinguished guests, I know you want to put your palms there. What we're going to do is we're going to count down together. You can see 5 right at the top. It's a 5-second countdown, after which you will place your palms with gusto on the screen as a commitment to safety. We want to get all the voices in the room because you are part of keeping safety as well. Will you join me in the countdown, ladies and gentlemen? Warm up your voices. All right, from the left to the far end of the room, let's start with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Launch off. A round of applause. All hands on deck, safety first. I know we say it all the time. It's a great reminder. It's a joint effort as well. Wonderful to hear your voices. I got goosebumps just hearing the whole room. We're going to invite our VIPs on stage to just come to the center. They're having a great conversation, you know. That's why we gather once a year. We need to catch up. Hello. Let's take a group photo. Come. Let's go to the center. And our official photographer, which is the most handsome one. They're all good looking, just big smiles for the camera. Oh, you just gave them a really complicated task to shake hands. Which hand to go? We have to practice this. Good effort. I'm going to keep MOS on stage. Thank you to our distinguished guests. You may return to your seats. Yes, MOS, we have a job to do. Yep, so our next segment, I think as mentioned earlier in the speeches as well, whether it's CE or MOS, he's talked about the new Safer Seas volunteer program, which I think is really awesome, right? Developed by MPA with support from members of the pleasure craft community and marina managers. Now, under the SSVP, MPA can contact our volunteers whose craft are in the vicinity of an incident to request their assistance to search and report sighting of men overboard to MPA. Now, this really would augment the multi-agency efforts coordinated by MPA for most search and rescue operations in Singapore waters. So today, MOS here will be presenting a letter of appreciation to our 17 volunteers for this pilot run. Okay, so let's really put our hands together for each of them coming up. Now, the first to acknowledge on stage, let's welcome Mr. Muhammad Hanafi bin Ahmad. Thank you for putting yourself up for volunteering this. Next, we have Mr. Chua Chai Seong. Mr. Terence Ho. Mr. Muhammad Suhaimi bin Ibrahim. Mr. Muhammad Khairi bin Kazbullah. Miss Aimee Lim. Mr. Elvin Lim. Mr. Edwin Low. Mr. Nur Muhammad bin Muhammad Amira. Mr. Muhammad Sharon bin Muhammad Taha. Let's welcome Mr. Pei Jian Yong. Next, Mr. Kogu Labalan Segaran. And we mentioned earlier, father-daughter duo, we have Miss Ariel Sogiarto. And her father coming on board, Mr. Roy Sogiarto. So cool that they're doing this together, father-daughter duo. Let's welcome Mr. Rick Tan Eng Chuan. Mr. Ismadi bin Yahya. Mr. Liu Seng Kyong, who isn't present, but we want to acknowledge him as well for volunteering. Now next, MOS will be presenting letters of appreciation to the mariners whose staff are participating in the SSVP. First up, I'd like to acknowledge Marina at Keppel Bay Managing Director, Mr. Albert Fu. Thank you for taking part in this. From Singapore Sailing Federation, we have General Manager Mr. Rohaizan bin Muhammad Zain. I'd like to take this chance to also acknowledge 1 Degree 15 Marina, who was not present to be here today. So thank you for your participation. We are going to take a big photo together. So I'm going to step off stage to give you space for that. Okay, so everybody, let's invite C first. C, please join us for the big photo together before we let the entire crowd come on stage. I think it's wonderful that we have acknowledged every single one, and now we see collectively the power of people coming together. Let's go on stage together, please. All our SSVP volunteers and Marina reps. Feels like class photo, right? Our pilot run of our SSVP volunteers. Big smile. Thank you, we got the shot. Round of applause for all volunteers. Thank you, MOS. You may return to your seat, and we want to keep CE on stage. CE on stage for our next segment. Thank you. You may take a rest. All right. Well, I'm really noticing the diversity and how the man on the street, right? Every man can actually do their part in this. So it's really exciting to see our SSVP volunteers. Now, we'll be presenting the MPA Safety at Sea Awards for outstanding contributions to search and rescue efforts in 2023. Now, the nominations were reviewed by the National Maritime Safety at Sea Council, and we have a total of 8 awardees this year. So they have carried out successful search and rescue operations. This was done by Singapore-flagged vessels, Singapore companies, and vessels in Singapore for search and rescue region. So first to join us on stage is AP Moeller Singapore. And receiving this award, we have Head of Fleet Operations, Mr. Dinesh Kumar Balraj. This award recognizes the master and crew of Maersk Valletta for the successful search and rescue operation to save 34 individuals from a wooden boat on 26 June 2023. Our next award goes to Bintan Resort Ferries. Let's welcome Master Captain Harry Burthus to join us on stage. Now he is receiving the award, this to recognize the master and crew of Area Bupala for the successful search rescue operation to save 6 individuals from the sea on 22nd December 2023. We want to next acknowledge CMA CGM International Shipping Company. Let's welcome a CEO of CMA CGM APAC, Mr. Bo Wegner. We want to recognize the master and crew of CMA CGM Ural for saving 2 individuals from a distressed sailing vessel on 14 December 2022. Our next award goes to Columbia Ship Management Singapore. Let's welcome DPA QHSE Manager Captain Edwin Rodriguez. For this award, the master and crew of Cape Franklin were being recognized for 2 search and rescue operations. Last year, they saved a total of 95 lives when it rendered assistance to individuals on board 2 disabled boats with rough sea, unfavorable conditions on 10th and 19 May, respectively. Thank you for your good work. Our next recipient, Rio Tinto Shipping Asia. Please come on up. General Manager for Marine Operations and Performance, Ms. Holly Schoon, receiving on behalf. Now, this award recognizes the master and crew of RTM Juopan for saving 6 individuals on 1st July 2023. They were stranded on a makeshift raft after a fishing vessel had sunk. Let's now give the award next to Synergy Marine Group. Synergy Marine Group. There you go. Let's welcome Senior Superintendent for QHSE, Captain Yatin Rawal, receiving on behalf of this company. This award recognizes the master and crew of Iberian Balkan for the successful search and rescue operation that saved 9 individuals from a distressed wooden craft on 9 January 2023. Now, the final award, we have 2 companies. First, the ship owner, One High Line Singapore, and the ship manager, Bernard Schulte Ship Management China. So first, we'd like to call upon the ship owner, One High Line Singapore, receiving this award on behalf of his director, Mr. Donald Quack. Let's welcome him. We acknowledge the master and the crew of One High 807 for the successful search rescue operation to save someone from a distressed sailboat on 6 October 2023. Next up, we'd like to call upon the ship manager, Bernhard Schulte Ship Management China, Managing Director, Captain Umesh Lula. Thank you for the good work. Please join us on stage to receive this award. Stay with us, gentlemen. We have one photo together. Hold on. We're going to get back ship owner, Mr. Donald Quek. Can we invite him, please? Mr. Donald Quek. Okay, we're going to do a photo with our two representatives first. So bear with me. We have a few parts to this. Let's stand together, gentlemen. Big smiles. Stay on stage. Now we're going to invite everybody up. But hold on, I need to get MOS to join us as well. MOS, come on up on stage again. We're going to do the big group photo together to make sure that we commemorate this moment. All right, all our recipients, please join us. This way, please. On stage for the MPA Safety at Sea Awards. It is a collective effort, indeed, and so proud to see all of us standing up to that call of duty. Thank you, we got the shot. Congratulations to all our recipients for their good work. Thank you, CE, as well, for giving out the awards, and MOS as well for being with us for the photo. We can return to our seats. Thank you. And I just have to take this chance to acknowledge that you have been a really fantastic audience. Your energy is great at 10:47 a.m. to clap for all our volunteers and recipients, honestly. Well done to you. You deserve a tea break. That's right. Yeah, to get together. So it's going to be a short one, but I think nonetheless a good one. 11:05, we come back again and we do a panel discussion, all right? You will be on time because you're a great audience, right? Okay, enjoy your tea break. See you at 11:05. Thank you. All right, I believe Mr. Michael Poon and the panelists all ready to go, right? They're like, please give me my hour. So let's get everyone to sit down together. Oh, wow, the lights are on already. Lights, camera, action, guys. You know, interestingly, we talk about our ships getting fueled up, and I hope you were fueled up. I heard coffee line was a bit long, so, right? But to the gentleman who was waiting at the coffee line, I hope you got your coffee as well, and tea. You'll be happy, I hope, for the next hour. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Settle in. Now, our panel discussion, I'm going to jump right in, is the theme of all hands on deck for safe methanol bunkering. All right, so I'm going to invite those who are still standing to please sit so we can prepare for the panel. And for those who are already seated, thank you so much for your time and your patience for the program ahead. Thank you. Okay. Now, we are all headed towards the net zero emissions by 2050. But the question is, how do we do it with safety at the top priority and in mind at all times? So this interest in methanol as an alternative fuel for bunkering has really grown in the shipping industry, right? So in May this year, as you can see from the picture, Singapore demonstrated its readiness for methanol bunkering for container vessels at Tuas Port with its first successful simultaneous methanol bunkering and cargo operation. Right? I can tell we're really excited. So you will have time to ask those questions later in the panel session. confirm. Okay, I'll tell you how in a while, if you just listen. So today we have invited MPA and its key partners involved in the first Sim Ops to come together on stage here to share about their roles and considerations for safety when they carried this out. To convene this panel, I will be inviting now our panel moderator to join us. He is Executive Director for Singapore Shipping Association and Deputy Chairman of the National Maritime Safety at Sea Council, Singapore, Mr. Michael Poon. Come on up. Take stage. Joining him, our esteemed panelists. First from MPA, we have Senior Deputy Director for Maritime Safety and Port Operations. Welcome, Mr. Chua Ying Hian. Mr. Chua, please join us. From PSA Corporation Limited, we have Assistant Vice President of Sustainability Planning and Development, Mr. Goh Hock Guan. Mr. Goh, welcome. Singapore Maritime Academy, Singapore Polytechnic, our Director, Captain Chatur Wayu. Captain Chatur Wayu, join us. And our final panelist, Express Feeders Quality Assurance Manager, Captain Mayang Singh. I hope I got your name right. Yes, fantastic. Great panelists all on stage. So we heard your feedback from previous years, right? You know, it gets a little dry when it's just the speakers doing their thing on stage. So we want to hear from you, and we want to get your questions in Pigeonhole. You can have a seat, gentlemen. All at attention. So do you see the QR code? Okay, on the two side screens, please scan it. You can also scan the back of your name badges as well and go into Pigeonhole. The event passcode is Safety at Sea. So this will allow you to participate and put in your questions so the panelists can have, the questions in their conversations as well. So without further ado, I can see people in action on Pigeonhole. I will just pass the time right now to our moderator, Mr. Michael Poon, to take it from here. Mr. Poon, your time.
Thank you, Clarissa. Thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. It's almost like school, getting all the boys and girls to come on back into the room after the recess period. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in this morning. So you heard this morning from MPA Chief Executive as well as the Minister of State, Murali, and they talk about a couple of things. I want to maybe cover that one more time for you folks, just in case you all missed this. Did you know, number one, is that Singapore is right now at the very verge of being ready for the world in terms of methanol bunkering. Now, I'm sure at the tip of your tongue, at the top of your mind, you want to ask a lot of questions, and I hope to see those questions coming in to fire very quickly into the Pigeonhole if you can. But I think the key thing is as follows. How many of you actually have come to and attended last year's Safety at Sea conference? I do see familiar faces. It's okay, don't be shy to do that. Now, if you recall last year around the same time, we had shared some of the initial learnings on the very first methanol bunkering experience that Singapore had wanted to trial. And I believe at that point in time, the industry was waiting with bated breath, like, how do we get this done? We have heard stories about the fact that methanol bunkering could be very dangerous. Yeah. And there we are, Singapore being the Singapore mentality and attitude. We want to play it safe, right? At that point in time last year, it was a first for Singapore. I believe it was the AP Moller Maersk vessel, the Laurel. And they were looking at bunkering at an anchorage first. And you may say, yeah, why do you need to bunker at the anchorage? Because we were not sure. We were not sure whether the bunkering operations will be safe. We all know that it's toxic, it can be highly flammable, and the worst thing is that if it's flammable, we can't see the flame. And so therein lies a few learning stories that we all have from the industry perspective. One of the biggest stories that we've also learned was that it wasn't just about understanding the safe handling and understanding and fine-tuning the process of the bunkering operations, but it's also about the other part. And the other part is, if something happens, the plume. And who would have thought about the plume? I mean, plume could be vapor moving across, and it could actually affect population along the way. So we should applaud the fact that the authorities concerned actually thought about this in the first place. Yeah. So, so I think that's key for us to understand. But therein after that, the industry itself didn't rest on its laurels. It was the first trial. And moving forward throughout the entire remaining part of the year, last year from July onwards, the MPA, I think, received close to, if I recall, almost 50, am I right, Indy? 50 proposals, right? For the supply of methanol as a bunker fuel with a potential to supply over 1 million metric tons of this green methanol and green carbon fuel annually by the year of 2020. I think for all of the ship owners, for all of the industry that's out there here today, there's always this holdback, this hesitancy saying that, I'm not sure whether a port is ready to provide that kind of a supply. Yeah, I'm not sure whether we're ready to go. But looking from the ardent support from the industries, more than over 50 proposals that we're seeing so far, I believe from a perspective from the industry, I think we are ready to go. And I'm very happy, and from behalf of the industry, we're able to see that the entire community has rallied around this whole thing altogether. Yes, it is a new green fuel. We don't know what's going to be the future, but at least steps are in place to get the industry ready. So fast forward now to this year, 2024, we saw 2 more vessels. The Stena during Singapore Maritime Week, and then more recently, Captain Bayan Singh, Express Feeders, also stepping up to the fore, and this time with simultaneous cargo operations, but at the same time bunkering. I think now this takes the bunkering level of methanol into the next level. So initially it was all about being safe. We have it in Anchorage, we do it somewhere else, we have a dedicated berth. But this time around, I believe that we're seeing now absolute progress, the right step moving forward to see how it will move forward, how it's going to look like when methanol becomes the normal standard bunkering fuel for all of shipping. So, it is with pleasure to be here today to maybe start this panel, to move forward, to say that Singapore now is ready and prepared to offer a full-scale commercial operations for methanol bunkering and perhaps even a model for future other alternative fuels are looking for. But I think before we move forward to doing that, it's really important to know that, just for traditional bunkering operations, it is really quite a big risk that's involved. So, and more so now for methanol bunkering. That's the reason why we have put in place a panel that's out here for you to understand. We're going to ask them to walk through with you some of the thinkings behind this, and also from their experiences, why are they supporting it? So I think to start off with, we'll have, obviously, of course, Yen Hian, YH I call him, from the MPA, to maybe share a little bit more on the reasons behind how MPA is supporting this. Yen Hian, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Michael.
And before we begin, in the meanwhile, as the speakers are sharing this, if you've got burning questions, do please get into their pigeonhole, and we'll try to answer them as we move along. Go ahead.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Michael. My name is Yen Hian from the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore. And once again, on behalf of the MPA, thank you for joining this session. I'm very heartened to see that there's so much support and so much interest to understand safe handling for methanol bunkering in Singapore. Now, as what Michael has shared, over the past year, we've conducted 3 successful methanol bunkering trials in the Port of Singapore. And instead of me going through what they are about, we've actually prepared a very short video to bring you through what was encapsulated over the past year. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the video. So thank you everyone for taking the time to look at that video. I think it really encapsulated what happened over the past year. Hard sweat and tears. It is not easy. The operations were definitely not easy. And so I think I just wanted to bring out 3 main points I think that everybody can take away from today's session. And I think the first one is that MPA has, and I think will continue to adopt this safety-first approach for methanol bunkering. I think it's important to recognize that we have planned it with a certain philosophy. We started, of course, shore to ship, and then ship to ship, as what Michael has said, and finally, when we're ready, simultaneous operations. Each leveling up the difficulty, each getting ourselves ready in terms of baby steps before we're finally ready for the simultaneous operations. And as what Michael has said, while we have carried methanol as a cargo for ages, the use of methanol as a marine fuel is something that is relatively new to us. Now, methanol is special. It cannot be classified the same as the rest and should be respected in its own rights. It is colorless, it's highly flammable, it is toxic, and it burns with an invisible flame. You know, some of us have gone through firefighting courses. You know where to get your firefighting equipment, but if you can't see the flames, you can't put it out, which is why it's so important for crew to be trained, upskilled, and that's why I guess partners like Captain Chatu comes in with SMA. That is an important point that we all got to recognize. But it's important that as we up-level, MPA and the industry have also employed very novel techniques, capabilities that will allow us to go through this smoothly. So for example, as you can see just now, we have employed live drones. So those drones allow us to fly around the vessels, giving us an eager eye view of what's been happening. They have been all equipped with infrared cameras, with gas detectors that allow us to see any mishaps that may happen quite quickly, and therefore allowing us to activate our resources and give them the best chance to solve the matter at hand. We have also partnered with our IHLs. Here, thank you to IHPC, to A-Star, to TCOMS, for example. They have stepped forth and developed plume modeling, pretty much some of the world's first in those kind of plume modeling, that allow us to see one day in real time where the plume is going to be. Not only does it help us draw out a safety zone, but it's also important to note that you've got to put your strategic assets somewhere else that's away from this plume. And having those plume modeling allows us to know where exactly to put them, so that we do not put them under undue stress and risk when we carry out an operation that can potentially be dangerous. So this is the 2 important things that we did. Now the second important point is that while the Port of Singapore is heartened that we are one of the first in the world, in fact the world's first to do container ship methanol bunkering, I think what we are really trying to get at is to be the world's first to conduct methanol bunkering in the safest and most efficient manner possible. That is actually what we're all trying to get at. The first methanol bunkering trial took us almost 1 year of preparation and involved over 28 partners, agencies, research institutes. That's a lot of people and a lot of resources put into that 1 year, including many who are here today. And that is, of course, kudos to everybody putting our efforts together. And I dare say that without the community here, everybody up and down the supply chain putting our efforts in, we cannot have a safe and we cannot have an efficient bunkering exercise in Singapore. It's not dependent on MPA, it's moved beyond that to encompass the entire community. And I also think that it's in our philosophy that in order for Port of Singapore to continue to differentiate itself, this methanol bunkering, instead of just being a preservation of life, which is essentially what our safety is all about, it can also be a strategic asset. You derive commercial benefits from it when we are one of the safest and most efficient hard port in methanol bunkering. When businesses choose to bunker here because they know that the authorities, together with a network of people here, can produce something safe and efficient in the Port of Singapore. That is the second point. And I think the third and the final point before I pass on is really about the fact that safety never sleeps and that we will continue to build this sustainable safety culture. Now, all that we have learned throughout the 3 trials, we have filtered them down, the learning points, and we're then passing them on to, for example, the Singapore Chemical Industry Council, where they're building your technical references for methanol bunkering in Singapore. We are working with our industry partners to deliver your port limit bunker tanker standards for those who are intending to bring your bunker tankers to Singapore. That will provide further guidance as well. And together with the use of our mass flow meters, together with the implementation of our digital bunkering, then it provides a safe and efficient package for us to move forward from here. And I think finally, just the last point is that if anyone here wants to do methanol bunkering trials in the Port of Singapore, feel free, come and approach any of us in the MPA, be more than willing to discuss. because each and every trial that we do, we learn something new, and then those can be translated directly into benefiting the industry later on. So I thank you once again. I'll move on.
Yeah. Yan, thank you so much for sharing it. I think we'll have some questions for you. I'm sure the audience is going to be burning to ask. And you talked about the fact that initially, the first trial that we had, there were more than 28 over partners. And one would wonder, is this sustainable if we were to move it forward? So I think, audience, I'm going to prick your brains. You start to ask them some of those difficult questions, on that area. We moved to Hock Guan, PSA being a port that you see was featured there. And maybe perhaps, Hock Guan, you want to share some of the operational risks involved and some of the plannings you have to put in place to support such simultaneous operations in terms of cargo operations, but at the same time, having a bunker barge moving alongside to also do bunkering. Perhaps you want to share that with all of the audience.
Okay, hi, I'm Hock Guan from PSA. I've actually prepared, I think, 2 slides. Can you bring up the slide?
Yeah.
Okay, I think first of all is that why is PSA doing this? Why are we supporting SIMOPS? I think a few reasons. Number one is to support, of course, the decarbonization of the maritime industry. We want to reduce emission. Everybody has the sustainability goals. I mean, just to share, vessel alongside is PSA Scope 3 emission. So it's also of our interest to see how we can actually help to reduce emission. Of course, the other one is always be future ready so that we can continue to support basically support basically the early adopters so that we can get insights and experience so that we can actually scale up in the future, especially for SIMOPS, simultaneous operation. And why simultaneous operation is we also know that basically the vessel must be on the go. The longer that you actually take, let's say in anchorage and also doing operation at the same time will be actually taking a longer time. So if you can combine everything together, you move containers, at the same time you do your bunkering, that will shorten your stay and that will actually improve in terms of efficiency. Yeah. Of course, I think the other one is to support Singapore to continue to be actually a multi-green fuel bunkering hub in the future and be a so-called future ready. Yeah. But of course, I think you can see that on the right side, basically we have started a lot of so-called simultaneous operation. I'm just giving examples that we started off first LNG with CMA, and then after also we started with the car carrier itself. And from there onwards, all this has developed, become an SOP, and will help us to scale up. Yeah, and then with that itself, we have actually scaling up quite a lot of so-called LNG CMOPs along the way. And then likewise, similarly, in May itself, we have the very first so-called methanol bunkering CMOPs. It's very new to us, right? So that's why when I think when we talk to MPA and Express itself, we say, yes, let's do it together. And then we all learn together and see what we can share with the industry. This will also help us to develop our own standards. Yeah. Next slide, please. Okay, so of course, I think typically when you're going to it, we have to look at a few things. Number one is about safety. It's very important, safety. And then the efficiency, that means the impact to operations, right? The third one is about sustainability. So we're trying to balance all this together. But of course, with this itself, I think some of the safety points is that safety is always first. We have to, in fact, when we started to have this, we start to think, where can we berth this vessel? Because it's very new. So we decided that, okay, together with MPA, we decided that let's try it in Tuas, and at one end of Tuas, right? Because we would not know what would be the plume mothering and dispersion look like. So that's how it's being started there at one end of Tuas, and we are prepared to try it out. Then with that itself, I think we have gone through also heads-up session, the QRA, risk assessment and all that. With that, we developed safety zones. Although we understand that with different modeling and all that, the safety zone may differ depending on parameters and all that, but we actually based on safety zone so that we brief and develop our own SOP, right? We also do our own risk assessment and develop our own safe working procedures so that we brief our people, right? Our lashing workers, our crane operators and all that, so that when it's ongoing, they must not be in the safety zone. So these are the things that we establish, and then we have actually established quite a fair bit of so-called safe work procedures for our people. At the same time, we also bring in our emergency response team. They are trained and to take note of this, right? And at the same time, also liaising with SCDF on what to look out for and all that. Yeah. Then, of course, I think the other one is working very closely with MPA and also with the Express itself in close monitoring. When the SIMOP starts to move, right? What are the exceptions to handle and all that. Yeah. I'll give you one example is that while we talk about safety zones, right? They're talking about even the plume modeling said potentially they can go up to even toxicity can go up to about 55 meters. That means that it may potentially even impact, let's say there's a leakage, impact key crane operator that's operating it. Yeah. So even for this trial, we have even prepared an EEBD, which is an emergency escape breathing device in the cabin, and all has been briefed. Just in case there's a leakage, they have to put this on before they actually come down. So these are all the procedures that we put in place so that for this particular trial. But of course, moving forward itself, if there are more of this trial coming in, it will help us to actually reinforce our procedure and add on to enhance the procedure. Yeah, of course, I think now with the technical standard coming along, hopefully they can standardize the computation of the safety zone and see how we can minimize also impact to operations. Right. So with that itself, I think that's the way to move forward. Of course, with all the experience we have learned, we can actually help us in the future methanol bunkering or even in the future in ammonia bunkering in the future. Yeah. I mean, that's what I have. Thank you.
Hua Guan, thank you very much. I'm very intrigued. Your last part of your presentation, you talk about the fact that they're looking forward towards computational models. Trying to predict and also see where the plume will flow into. It's going to be based on a lot of also, I guess, weather patterns too, right? Whether is it going to be windy that day and so on. And again, for the audience, you've got burning questions, do please ask. And then obviously, Hua Guan has shared about the safety zones, about, also briefing your hazard operational team and a quick response team as well as the risk assessment. I was just actually writing it down and was talking about what about the port workers, and you, without me asking that, you had talked about also the key crane operators as well. But I think therein lies also perhaps another question that I hope that the audience would start to query about, and that is how fast and how prepared is PSA in terms of your infrastructure as methanol bunkering becomes the norm moving forward. I know that we've done a trial and we set it aside, on a berth a bit away from everybody else, but I think at some point in time, we will likely have to see it away as what we have seen when LNG first came into place, and now it becomes the norm. So we'll talk more about that later on. So that now leads me to Captain Wayu. Captain Wayu comes from the Singapore Polytechnic, and I'm sure you want to share about, I guess, some of the training the behind-the-scenes training that's in place to maybe get the workforce in place. I think Minister of State talked about the fact that we've set up the Maritime Energy Training Facility. Perhaps you want to share the audience about this. Yeah,
good. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Before we start my short presentation, I would like to thank MPA for inviting SMA to share the 3Ds, which is designing, developing, and delivering the methanol course here in Singapore. Okay, as Mr. Michael mentioned, we did the first world methanol bunkering somewhere last year in July. But before even this operation was actually conducted, SMA and MPA have been working closely to design the methanol course. Okay? So we are using the IMO interim guideline because we don't have any other guidelines to refer to. And we work closely with MPA to design the guideline. That means we come up with the syllabus. One is a GLO syllabus, General Learning Objective, and the other one is a specific learning objective. Can you share the slides, please? Okay, so on top of this, we also want to align with the IGF code course structure. That's why we actually developed two categories of courses. One is the basic, one is the advanced. Basic is 1-day course, advanced is 2-day course. Okay? And this course is fully accredited by MPA. And the uniqueness about our course is we incorporate the practical methanol fire exercise. Okay? Because I've been in industry for more than 30 years. Some of you had also more than 30 years. How many of you have actually experienced encounter methanol fire? So as mentioned earlier, the fire is invisible in the daylight. So how do you actually extinguish a fire if you cannot see with your naked eyes? So that's why important for the ships to be equipped with the necessary PPE and equipment to handle a fire on board the ships. So we had our partner at the Poly Marina, this is where the training is happening, to conduct the firefighting exercise for the methanol fire. Okay, besides this, we also are using AI technology to develop the immersive learning package using AI and VR technology. Okay? So this means that our participants may be required to go to training using VR technology. Okay? So that means the benefit is they get to go through the whole bunkering process step by steps. And during this process, they will be assessed. Okay, whether they wear the correct PPE, whether they have the right equipment during the operations, whether they have a gas detector or whether they have the infrared camera with them. Okay? And so when they completed the exercise, the system will generate auto assessment, how well they do. Okay, whether they did well, certain part of the operation, or they did not do well. So this system actually is developed by our partners, Center of Excellence in Maritime Safety. They have a booth outside here. Okay, so we plan to incorporate this part of the training program. Okay, also as mentioned earlier about the methanol plume dynamics. Okay, it was actually developed by the Research Institute, but we have colleagues from School of Chemical Life Science, one of the school in SP. We actually invite them to co-teach in these topics. So they are also delivering the topics on how the methanol, when it's released to the atmosphere, how it affect the environment, and if spilled to the water, how also it affect the environment. So we do have the chemical engineers teaching in this program as well. So we have the master mariner, we have the chief engineer, some of them used to be superintendent or surveyors, and we have chemical engineers actually during this program with us. Yeah? Okay, on top of that, we are also in the process of developing the electronic version of the course, because for those participants who are not able to come to Singapore to do the in-person or face-to-face course, we were planning to offer this course online, providing the approval support of the MPA. Okay, so we plan to complete this online package by end of this year. Right? Okay, next please. Okay, since soft launching this program from March this year, we have trained about 200 participants, international participants, mostly from MERS, from Evergreen, even from Express as well, and from Fratelli Consulage, okay, to handle the methanol fuel safely and efficiently. Okay. So we plan to train another 100 international participants in the next 3 months. Okay. So at the recent Maritime Week in April, MPA has shared with you the plan to set up the METF, Maritime Energy Training Facility. So SMA, representing SP, is one of the signatory to the LOI. Okay? So we actually already contributing to this MTF. The training that we did for the methanol at Poly Marina, our waterfront training facility, is one of the facility that is actually supporting this MTF. We have other facility, for instance, the integrated engine room and bridge simulator, as well as our engineering workshops. So we are working with industry partners to hopefully set up the training center for engineers. So for engineers to operate and maintain the fuel systems, piping and the storage systems on board the vessels. So this is work in progress. So hopefully the plan is for this METF to be set up by 2026. So currently we are having conversation with some of our industry partners to actually develop this program so that we can support the METF. Okay? So, okay, that's for me. Thank you.
Captain Wahyu, thank you very much for that sharing. So it's very good. As they are speaking, I'm actually checking some of the Q&A has been up on a pigeonhole. But before I don't want to preempt this, but there was a question that came from the audience that talks about why methanol and why not ammonia? Will MPA support the ammonia bunkering trials and so on? I think this question will be asked, whoever wrote this, in the next panel that's coming up soon, yeah, on ammonia. So again, I encourage all of you to start to ask those questions. So now back to Captain Mayan Singh. Obviously, you represent Express Feeders, and we applaud you. I think as a company moving forward, it must have been very, very stressful to bring a vessel in, and we say, well, let's do it. Let's just take the whole experience of bunkering from shore to ship to ship, and now actually simultaneous operations at the same time. Please share with us your thoughts on this.
Thank you for the introduction, Michael. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank MPA to give us the opportunity to share our experience. I do have 2 slides here. I will touch upon the brief introduction to express feeders, and then what were the preparations we had done before the actual operation. So starting from the slide 1, Express Feeders was founded in 1972, and since then we have grown into world's largest independent feeder carrier. And we have our operations throughout the world. We have identified our midterm goals in 2040 for decarbonization and net zero in 2050. And we realized that we have to act now for the needs of tomorrow. That's when the 14 dual fuel methanol vessels were ordered. These vessels will be capable of operating on conventional fuel as well as methanol. And after having these, we had also signed the contract for the supply of methanol fuel to operate these vessels. Then I will talk more about the delivery of 3 vessels. Out of these 14, we have already taken the delivery of 3 vessels earlier this year. And the first vessel, which was named EcoMastro, came to Singapore for the simultaneous operation. And this was earlier in May. Vessel was delivered in China and then came to Singapore for simultaneous operation. So from here on, I'll go into the preparations that were done for these operations. Can you go to the second slide, please? Okay. So from very early, we at Express Feeders had identified that Singapore is the best place to carry out these operations. And we had identified the key partners. And the processes were discussed very early, I remember in February this year. And the first meeting started in March, where we identified the roles and responsibilities for all the stakeholders. The approvals and scheduling was done for vessel arrival and operations. The preparation was actually done in 3 segments. If you can look at the screen, the main 3 segments were compatibility study between the vessels, the delivery vessel and EcoMastro, the safety considerations and risk assessment, basically hazard of exercise, and third was the development of joint bunker management plan. So more about these 3 segments. Compatibility study, if you can look at the screen on the left bottom, it was basically identifying the best case scenario in which the vessel will be alongside and the other vessel will come alongside for the bunker supply. Then the second stage, talking about the risk assessment, the entire operation was broken into segments, be it coming alongside, starting of bunker, setting up of line, testing, completion of bunker, and then disconnection of hoses, departure of vessel after unmooring. Each segment was assessed for risk, hazards were identified, and control measures were put in place to make sure that operation will go safely. After this risk assessment and compatibility study was done, all the information was taken and bring into the joint operation plan, the bunker management plan, along with the additional information on PPE metrics and additional portable equipments which were supplied on board. As you can see on the screen, there was portable light detector, thermal cameras, and other intrinsically safe equipments. Once these documents were ready, all the information was gathered, there was a pre-ops meeting which was carried out before the actual operation. And after everyone was aware, all the information was aligned, everyone was aware of the process. Finally, on 27th of May, vessel carried out the simultaneous operation at Tuasport. If you look at the screen on the left side, the diagrammatic representation is the result of all the preparations. You can see the control zones, where the red zone is the hazard zone. Nobody was allowed within that zone during the operation. And the other zone is safety zone encompassing the hazard zone. Only authorized people were allowed in that zone with proper PPE. Now, the third zone is monitoring and security zone, which covers both the ships. Interesting thing to note here is the cargo operation was carried out outside the safety zone and within the control zone. Actually, this picture in the center is a video. I don't know if it can be played. You will see the container coming out of the cargo hold which is in that zone. So yeah, that's how the actual operation was completed based on the preparations that we had done, and glad to say again that it was done successfully and safely. And you were right in the beginning, it was a lot of stress.
Yeah.
But it was a very long preparation and we are very, very happy with the end result. Having said that, we at Express Feeder also realized that safety is a continuous process. So we are still developing, we are still improving our processes as and when we have new information and we gather new experiences with the other vessels. In fact, we are taking another delivery tomorrow. The 4th vessel is coming out tomorrow from China. So we are trying to improve our procedures, but we have also realized that industry-wide involvement is required, where we come together with the mindset of learning and knowledge sharing, and I think that will make the improvements very, very fast. And that's all from me.
Okay. Captain Singh, thank you very much for your sharing. So I thought maybe at this point in time, I would just maybe have the people at the back, the audio-visual team, to maybe put on the screen a live poll that was done for the attendees here. And let's see what's the responses like. The live poll question was, what do you feel is the biggest obstacle to the safe adoption of methanol as a bunker fuel? Let's see some of the responses that's in place. Can we have it on the screen, please? Yeah. So it does appear that 37% felt that I think people, the people element in terms of training, in terms of awareness, it's going to be extremely important for us. Second, coming in place is process, the lack of operational experience, and I think this is a good time for discussion when we go into Q&A in a short while. And then as we are moving live right now, it also appears that the third one is about costs. And I would think maybe costs refers to the cost of the fuel and the cost of the entire operational process as well. And then last but not least is the availability of the fuel. So that's pretty much the live poll is coming in place. So it's still live, as you can see, it's still moving back and forth. But it does appear that the majority feels that people, I think training, getting people, and I guess the whole process behind this, it's going to be important for us as we move along as a country to start this whole methanol bunkering for the future moving forward. Okay, great. Let's. Can I have the AV people help me and support me? I'm going to go into Pigeonhole. Again, audience, I would like for you to continue to keep firing those questions moving upwards. What I want to do is I'm going to put this on the screen. This is the one with the 10 votes. The question is, how will an oil spill from methanol bunker batch be handled any differently from conventional fuels? Maybe perhaps I'm going to ask YH. Sure. From a regulator perspective, how do we actually treat this? Because we need to visualize this. We need to visualize this. How does it actually take place?
I think, unlike conventional oil spills, I think for methanol, you might be looking at a plume that can form. And because of that, your traditional methods may no longer be that relevant in that sense of the word. And that's why I think over the past months, I think MPA, we have been working very closely with the industry. Through each of the trials, we've also looked a little bit into what happens when a spill happens. What are the mitigating response plans that we can have? Is it just deploying of oil spill booms that will be useful? Or are we looking at certain other methods that can be involved in it? So this is still an ongoing discussion, but I think rest assured is that this is something that we are actively looking into, and we can only be safe, we can only be efficient if we know what can be done through that. And so that's what I guess it's important to stress at this point.
So I think YH, I think one of the things to add on is the fact that it is not only just an MPA's sole responsibility, right? There is this whole machinery behind the scenes that require adjustments, as well as technical and knowledge sharing among the community to actually put it in place. And that's the reason why we have this whole METF that's been set up. And we do applaud the regulator and with the industry to invest in this, because I think we all need everyone from every part of the entire process and the value chain to add in and also support this with the right knowledge that's going to be placed. So I think we will learn together and put it in place. Okay, great. Thank you. The next question is on the screen, and with the 10 votes, there's 2 of them. Let me see which is the one that I would like to have answered. Hold on a second. Let me take a look at it. Let me just show more. Yeah, the biggest risk of methanol bunkering is the invisible fire risk, and which the crew might not be able to detect at an earlier stage. I think what will happen is instead of doing this question, because that's why we have this plume modeling that's in place, I want to take the second one to be on the screen, which is will lessons learned be shared with the international community for incorporation into an international SOLAS convention? Then we move back to the other question. So what do you think, panelists? Should we do that? Yeah, should we do that? I think maybe perhaps Captain Wayu and maybe Yen Hian, sorry to put you back on the hot seat again. I think that's important. So that's the first question we want to ask, and that is, will the lessons that we learn, will it be shared with the international community?
Okay, currently I think MPA is chairing the working group on the comprehensive review of the SCCW Convention and Codes. And MPA also, we assigned a staff actually to work closely with MPA to do this review. And on top of this, we also have staff actually working with MPA to review the IMO model courses. Right? Yeah. So currently the current skill sets, competency are being reviewed. So I think there is a plan for MPA to share with IMO on the lesson plan as mentioned by Michael. Okay, that's why this METF, I think what MPA plans is to share with IMO our plan to set up the METF. And then actually there is a plan for them to establish a digital platform, a portal for METF, which they're planning to launch somewhere next year. Maybe Yan can share later about this, right? So actually, there is already a plan to share the learn experience with MPA, and it's ongoing. Yeah? So maybe Yan can share more about this.
Yeah, maybe just to share also, after we've completed the first methanol trials, we actually submitted an info paper to the IMO, sharing what exactly happened and what were our learnings from it. And it's very consistent with our approach to share whatever that we've learned with the international community, because that makes the whole methanol bunkering safer and up-levels the entire international community. We have, of course, incorporated all the learnings. We're incorporating them into what we call a technical reference that will be referred in Singapore. But it will not be an issue for us, of course, also to elevate it, to share it worldwide, so that more people can, of course, learn from the trials that we have conducted.
Okay, Yen Hian and Captain Wayu, I don't want to put you on the hot seat for too long, but there's a burning question that I saw that I thought it was really, really good. Hok Guan and Captain Singh, hang on. I'm not leaving you out yet. You're not getting away with this, yeah? So this question came out, and it says here that, where did it go? It's on, did I just lose it? Did someone just deleted it? No, I hope not. It says here, I think it's, how operationally ready are we for an explosion in the light of a recent oil spill that we've seen, from in the port of Singapore? So I know it can be quite a controversial question, but I thought maybe it's something that we should talk about. Experiences and maybe learning points and some sharing from Captain Wayu and from YH. What do you think?
Okay, that's why I say earlier, normally the course which is offered under IGF, LNG, there's no practical firefighting exercise. But for this particular course, methanol, it's important to have the practical methanol fire exercise.
Yep.
Because to expose to the crew to handle a fire which they're not able to see. Okay? So important for the practical session to take place. So actually under this program, we actually train our participants to wear the proper PPE and to have the right equipment when they're doing methanol bunkering. For instance, they must have a gas detector, they must have infrared cameras, and they must have a right extinguishing agent so that in case there's a fire, they can extinguish it effectively. So I'm talking about the alcohol-resistant foam extinguisher. Okay? So we bring this training upfront. And then I believe during the bunkering of methanol, there will be nobody stationed at the bunker station there. So most of them will be stationed in the control room. So just in case if there's any explosion, so we already anticipate this. So humans are not be directly impacted because there's nobody at the station at the moment. So moving forward, I don't know what is the plan, but I think this is a good practice. Maybe Yen.
Just to add on to what Captain Chatu has said, I think during the first methanol bunkering operation, we have already employed drones, unmanned drones that have all different detectors that will allow us to look for spots that can potentially be problematic. We're not exposing real life humans because we know that can be dangerous. The pool model also adds in another level of protection that we can have. We have multiple scenarios in place, from like the most basic to the most advanced, and what should be the mitigating plans, which is one of the reasons why the plans took a really long time to gestate, but very important, especially in today's operating context. So these are some of the things that we have put in place that can allow us to better manage, say, for example, when an explosion happens.
Well, Captain YH, thank you. From sitting here from my perspective, I see it in maybe a different positive light to this. Actually, it opens up the fact that there could be a new occupation, a new career, and there's flying drones. And I don't know, it might be true, yeah? We may see private operators offering drone monitoring for normal day-to-day operation of methanol bunker, where it becomes normalized as part of the whole procedure. So I think anyone who's thinking about moving from a desk job to doing drone flying, time to take up the Skills Future class on that. I might. But Captain Wah, you talk about the fact that one of the things that the current present procedure is to not have anyone at the bunkering station, which leads me to ask Captain Singh, was there some kind of a so-called remote bunkering monitoring? Because, in a bunkering operations, we usually have a cargo surveyor being there, making sure everything is okay, the valves are solidly in place, the hoses are all in place before bunkering operations begin. So how was it being done during the methanol bunkering for express feeders?
So, for this, I think technology has really helped us.
Yeah.
The bunkering manifold is fitted with the CCTV cameras on both sides. So you can monitor, for our ships, you can monitor the bunkering from engine control room as well as from the bridge. And the level sensor you can actually monitor the entire bunkering process and operate the valves itself from the engine control room and from the bridge. So this technology has really improved, and you don't really need to be at the manifold to monitor the entire operation.
Okay, very good. Let me maybe ask Captain YH too, right, at the same time, because now it appears to us that remote monitoring will be probably one of the acceptable practices. So does it mean that now, even for YH as part of your regulator, does it mean as we move forward, we'll probably see lesser people involved in this? It also means that now we are looking at adopting also different technologies. There's likely in the remote monitoring, but it also comes with the fact that digital bunkering, which I think this morning MPA Chief Executive and also MOS Murali talked about, is that I think Singapore is right now at this verge of, again, hopefully being another leading maritime capital to start this, and that is to look at normalizing and having the industry adopt digital bunkering itself. I know that Captain YH, you are likely having plans to equip bunkering operations people to look at how do we implement something like this. But from a regular perspective, how do you incentivize the bunker community to adopt a digital bunkering process altogether? Because right now, today, it's all about, I want to see that receipt, I want to see that pump meter and everything else.
I think that's a very valid point, Michael. So we have started implementing digital bunkering in the Port of Singapore, I think since November. You can take it as a soft launch, whereby we go out there and really market it to each and every bunker suppliers we have in Singapore, painstakingly telling them the values of joining digital bunkering. It improves productivity, it improves safety, it improves transparency, which is essentially what bunkering process should be all about. Since then, I think we're quite heartened. I think today, almost all, in fact, all the bunker suppliers that we have at least trialed, to a certain extent, this EBDN concept. And of course, in the same pipeline, we also have another group of colleagues in the MPA that looks at whitelisting solution providers who can provide this EBDN services. It's quite a comprehensive service, literally. So you have service providers coming in, designing the BDN template exactly as it should be, and everything is seamless when you join this particular bandwidth. So this is why I think it's important for us to jump on the bandwagon at this point in time. There are, of course, still grants to be given out. If you're interested, of course, you can come approach me or any of our colleagues. I think ESG do give out certain grants that will allow you to jump on the bandwagon. But I think eventually the concept is really, as what Moss has announced today, that EBN will be the default sooner rather than later. And when it's the default, it means that everybody is going to offer it, and that becomes then your competitive advantage. Whether or not you can offer it in a better way than the rest becomes pretty much in the commercial space. So it's no harm thinking about it, no harm trying out, no harm preparing yourself for this eventuality. And I think that is the step next that I think MPA will be partnering the industry to head towards.
Well, speaking about competitive advantage that you just talked about, I want to, I just called to mind, I need to ask Hock Guan. Yeah, PSA is known to be one of the leading ports of the world. And, obviously you shared about the fact that, that there is a level of coordination behind the scenes that's in place when you accommodate a vessel coming into the berth, doing simultaneous cargo operations. And obviously, I think this will mean that with the extensive planning behind the scenes, it would maybe perhaps impact PSA in terms of being efficient as a port, because you're no longer looking at business as usual. You got to look at how do you designate the berth correctly. And again, we are also exposed to the fact that there's one element you cannot control, and that's the weather. So how will this work for PSA? What is going to be the plan? What are your thought processes going to be in place that hopefully that this will not impact PSA's status as a very efficient port in Singapore?
Okay, like I say, I think we are saying that this green field is here to come, it will be future ready. Of course, I think into this itself, there are a few considerations. One is actually we are very new to methanol bunkering. That's why the plume modeling is important, right? Because it also affects basically weather, it could be lightning and all this whatever is important. So we have to work very closely. Let's say we're using MPA with the liners itself. In fact, the risk assessment is important. Yeah. In fact, that's why I think one of those things is that moving forward, is there a way for us to actually standardize this plume modeling or some dynamic parameters to be fit in so that at any one point of time, right, you know what are the considerations. But of course, you will need to predict beforehand and also so-called in actual, what are some considerations. So that's one, right? Of course, the other one is that currently our sync ops is always ship to ship, right? So it's very dependent on basically the bunkering vessel and also the receiving vessel. Right, so it's a lot of coordination is also between them to look at the overall so-called risk assessment. Yeah. Then, of course, with the liners itself, let's say even with Express, right, in this case, we have to look at where is the safety zone. Then we have to plan where are the containers as being stacked, right? And then which are those that we're supposed to, let's say, move first or after. So all this kind of crane sequencing or how do we move the containers and all that has to be planned together with the customers itself. Yes. But I agree that with this itself, there's actually a lot more coordination, a lot more work, but we still want to be efficient. That's where I think, like earlier we stressed on, is still about safety is still number one.
Okay.
Right. The other one is efficiency. What are the measures we put into place? Can we look at some technology, some modeling, some whatever to minimize operations itself so that we can continue this?
Hock Guan, I'm thinking aloud, just as you're talking about this, right? So I drive a car. And I do pump my gas or my petrol at a gas station, and this gas station actually has a little placard on every of the kiosks where the petrol is being pumped, and it says that this petrol station employs this evaporator kind of a model where they suck up all of the fumes from the petrol when you're pumping the petrol into your car. So I think maybe hopefully, I'm just thinking aloud that, sooner or later the bunker barges will be equipped with such an equipment to reduce any evaporation of plume moving forward. So that could be potentially a new game changer and something that perhaps maybe startup companies can think about. I'm just thinking aloud on that area. I want to now switch gear. There is a burning question on the screen that is... can I have the AV people also reflected on the screen in front of me here as well for the panelists as well? And that is, this is 14 votes. It says here, MPA's current focus seems to be alternative fuel for ocean-going vessels. How about alternative fuels for harbor craft? I'm not sure who on this panel can answer that, but maybe hot seat. Okay, sure. YH, that's why you're right next to me.
No problem, no problem. What about alternative fuels for hovercraft? Just let me clarify. Alternative fuels for hovercraft is something that is possible. It is something that's very much in the minds of MPA. I mean, if you're in the hovercraft community, you would know that by 2030, if you are to register a new craft in Singapore, A, fully electric, we accept. B, operating of alternative fuels, such as ammonia and all the other fuels. Or C, being capable of burning up to B100. So there's biofuel 100. We have put in place that, and that means that we have certain confidence in the industry that alternative fuel is definitely something that can be used. Of course, besides alternative fuels, we are at the end of the day talking about decarbonization of the hovercraft industry, and we have a separate work stream that does electrification of hovercrafts. So as you would know, if you go around our coastlines today, you will see a lot of projects ongoing about electrifying, about building up our charging stations, having a grand master plan so that we can transit as much of the hovercraft into the decarbonized space that uses electricity as much as possible. For some of the hovercrafts which can't really use electricity today, of course, we're looking at hybrid models. We're looking at alternative fuels, for example, being one of the key roles that we can change. So I don't think it's quite fair to say that we are just focusing on ocean-going. Definitely ocean-going has a fair share of attention, but of course, hovercrafts. We have 1,600 over hovercrafts in Singapore. Those are very much part of our community and very much part of who we are also trying to target as well.
Okay, thank you. That's really reassuring to hear. We are slightly going to be running out of time, but what I want to do is I want to actually help to answer some of the other questions that's out there. I think the first one that has the 11 votes was the one that we held back for a while, and that is the one that says the biggest risk of methanol bunkering is the invisible fire, which the crew might not be able to detect at an earlier stage. How do you make sure this is mitigated every single time? So I think again, as I was thinking out earlier on, and hopefully in the nearest future, since there's already a technology available at the gas stations on land, petrol stations where there's an evaporator, kind of a machine that sucks up all of this stuff, maybe that will be in place. And again, I think the idea of employing drones that would actually has the right camera to filter out plume, that would likely mitigate that risk itself. There are two questions that have 9 votes. One of them is how will methanol bunkering be licensed in Singapore? If I'm not wrong, this is now in place for someone who is asking that question. Please do reach out to the MPA, right? I think there is a process is in place to start to put this licensing in order. I think that's going to be key for us itself. The next vote that has also 9 votes, the next question that 9 votes is actually on has there been methanol as a fuel firefighting training available? So I believe Captain Wahyu has answered that. I'm kind of pleased to hear that as an institution, an education institution, they have incorporated hands-on firefighting as part of the whole curriculum process. So that question is being answered here at this point in time. So exactly 12:15, I've got the flashing screen here that says this time's up. So hopefully I'm able to answer those questions. For those of you who have other questions to want to ask, I'm sure during during lunch break, do please approach the panelists while they are having their meal, but make sure that you're not having their mouth full before they answer you. They can catch them on the area. So once again, thank you, panel, for this, and I hope that the audience have found a good insight this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Michael Poon, and our panelists. I'm going to hold you for a bit to take a group photo, okay? Yeah, since we do this once a year, so how often, right? Let's stand together. Would you like them to stand? And our official photographer will position you. Join me once again in giving a round of applause to thank our panelists and our moderator, Mr. Michael Poon, for that. Wow, someone got personal camera. Big smiles for there. Oh, these days we have social media too, yeah. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this rounds up the opening session for the Singapore Safety at Sea conference. But I'd like to request for a minute of your time for a very quick feedback as it's fresh in your mind right now. Just to click on that link, I'm going to move aside. just to click on that link. There are only just about 5 to 6 questions, short ones. We want to find out what you enjoyed, what was good for you, and what you wish to see more next year, hopefully, and be able to bring more relevant conferences to you. So just take a couple of minutes, actually just a minute or so, to scan and fill in the feedback form. And we'll play some lovely music while you do that. As we do the feedback, just a note to the panelists earlier to take off your mics. Yep, that's right. Off duty already, so you can de-mic and just leave the mics on your table. We'll come around and we'll collect it. All right, I believe some of you have already put in your feedback. Thank you for those who are still working on it. We appreciate all the honest feedback coming in. Now, I just want to gently remind you to take all your belongings with you as we'll be turning over the room for the next panel session, so we don't want anyone to lose their belongings. At the same time, we'll be commencing lunch just outside in the foyer. There will also be the Safety Showcase booth by Centre of Excellence in Maritime Safety and WSH Council. So take time to go visit, drop by and have conversations. So how long is lunch? We will have lunch all the way up to 1:30 before we commence panel session 2 or session 2. All right, ladies and gentlemen, all set. Please enjoy your lunch and conversations. Bon appetit.